From Learning the World by Ken MacLeod, page 301. Other, darker and more daring, have made the blunt point that if there had been no trudges to bear the load, some men would have been forced to bear it, slashed and lashed, leashed and chained, some gelded and spaded, and as that came to revolt the conscience, or became too clumsy a method to work and manufacture, why then they would have been turned loose, and hunger having taken the place of all other inducement, they would have done the same work for pay. The usual refinement of such tales was in finding ingenious ways to exclude the free human trudges from nature's bounty of fruit and prey. The crudest involved enormous fences and aerial barriers, the subtlest, debt. Okay, we start off Exodus chapter 6 with Moses and the Lord having a bit of a rant with each other, explaining to each other that they're going to show Pharaoh a thing or two about who's going to be the boss. And of course, Moses is going to be the boss, otherwise the story wouldn't have been written. And the Lord God says, I am El Shaddai. At least that's who I say I am. Really, I'm Nin. But I never told no one. So the sacred name of God is Nin. You shouldn't say that because that would be blasphemy. But his name is Nin. But we don't believe in blasphemy because blasphemy only works if there's a God. And since there is no God, there's no such a thing as blasphemy. Of course, there are ways to talk that are more friendly than others, but blasphemy is an illusion. So, verse 6, I am the Lord, I will free you. Verse 7, and I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. So much for freedom. From verse 6 to verse 7, they were free for in between the two verses. Okay, so Moses declares he is Lord, and oddly enough, they don't buy it right away because they're a little bit upset about having to work more, making bricks without having the straw delivered. So their work is getting out of hand. So, wait a second. Well, Moses gets a little bit depressed about the Israelites not believing that he's the Lord, and then so he goes to his Lord and says, "Oh, I am me, Lord." And I'm not sure if this is maybe a mirror image or it might be what we call the psychosis of a bratty child. If you remember when you were young and you didn't get what you wanted, then you would start pouting. And this is almost what we see here. When Moses doesn't get the reaction he intends, then he goes and pouts to his Lord. And I don't think there isn't a kid that hasn't done that. But on the other hand, of course, if we take the mirror image to it, maybe he went around screaming, I can do whatever I want and you fuckers are going to listen. But my guess is he said both things. Because that's the way we are. It's the, what do you call it? The quantum way to think. And I think that's another thing we should notice about the Bible writing, and something that actually you can give it credit, is that this quantum back and forth thing is very real, and it is training for your mind. The Bible is training for your mind, and if you read it enough, you will actually spring out of it. So I think that's why a lot of the priests don't want you reading it, because they don't want you to stop giving them money. So I'm going to mention that as well. I don't want you to believe me, and if you don't want to read my version of the Bible, read the original version of the Bible. It doesn't matter which one you read, just read it. And that's the only thing that I'm hoping for, is to encourage people to read their Bible, especially if they believe it. If you don't believe it, then you're already ahead of the game, and it doesn't matter. Okay, all the high priests are from the line of Simeon and Levi, the high priests that are going to go see the Pharaoh. And that's planned for the next chapter, I believe. I don't believe. Never mind. Okay, So all the priests are descendants of the two militant killers that weren't given a blessing by their father Jacob, and for some reason not getting a blessing from their father Jacob made them the high priests that Moses picked. Some people will say that Moses was not an Egyptian, and I don't think it matters. He was raised in the Egyptian castle. Who was his mother doesn't really even matter. Okay, so just one other thought from the last thing about the bricks, and I don't believe this myself, but this is just a thought. Maybe the bricks were bricks of hash. Maybe they were making, or maybe even bricks of cocaine, but no, cocaine came from places to the east and and from South America. And at the time, they did have cocaine in Egypt. And they also did have marijuana, but they probably could have grown it there. And anyway, they were probably exporting the bricks of whatever drugs. They weren't illegal back then. They were made illegal because, well, I'll tell you why marijuana is illegal. It's made illegal because the paper companies and the cotton companies and the mineral oil companies don't want it legalized because it is direct competition, and it's also direct competition for a lot of drug companies, and it is also too easy to grow, and it is too perfect a product, and too it's the competition. The competition doesn't want it. The competition is centralized. The competition wants the rulers are all these grand corporations, and above them, of course, the grand money people, but they don't want marijuana to be legalized because it is not easy enough to centralize it. Anybody can grow it. But that's the direction we have to go. So even if you don't smoke the stuff, it needs to be legalized for many, many other reasons. And it has to be taken seriously and done quickly, because what we're doing right now is costing the world just a little bit too much, and well, they won't be around next time we come to life, or our children, if you don't believe in reincarnation.